Hey guys, welcome to another video. Today's learning objective is to apply systematic listing strategies, and that's kind of the foundation tier stuff. And the higher tier stuff kids also need to know, including the use of the product rule for counting. So, so as usual, feel free to skip to any part of the video. Now the timestamps are here. So let's get into it. First, let's talk a bit about what systematic listing strategies are. This is basically when you see a question and you kind of think of all the possible ways there are of doing something, and you kind of just list these out, and then maybe you'll have to count them up or kind of think about how many fulfill a certain condition. A lot of the times it can be kind of a bit, kind of like a bit long and a bit kind of, oh, I'm not too sure what to do. And then the reason it's called systematic listing strategies is that you approach it in a certain way. I know what I'm saying doesn't make too much sense right now, so let's move on to a question and think about it. So let's move on to the first question. How many different ways are there of answering a multiple choice quiz if there are 2 questions and each question has 4 options? Okay, let me just draw a little kind of multiple choice quiz as question 1, and you can have answer A, B, C, and D. And question 2, again, you can answer as A, B, C, and D, right? So to answer this question, what you could do is, for example, list out all the different possibilities. And you want to go about it in a systematic way so you don't miss anything. So if you've got, say for question 1, you choose A first, right? So say you choose A. Well, what can you choose for question 2? You can also choose A, so A. But then you can also choose B, for example, and then AC, and then AD. And then you kind of repeat this over and again for B, BA, BC, yeah, and then so forth. So if you want to give the video a pause, perhaps list them all out and see what happens, and then count how many there are. So the answer is 16, if you guys did give that a pause. And kind of, this is what the systematic listing strategy effectively is. And then kind of for higher tier, there's also this idea about the product rule. So the product rule effectively says if there's, a certain n ways of doing one thing and n ways of doing another thing, if you want to do those kind of things together, there's m times by n different ways of kind of accomplishing it. And now if you want to kind of think about why this might be, it just goes back to this thing, right? So with A, you can tell there's going to be 4 different choices that you can pick, right? So you can go A, and then A, then B, A, then C, right? So there's 4 like this, but then there's 4 of these as well, right? So each of these branches has 4 different options that it kind of branches off into. So there's 4 here, but then each of these has 4, so that's 16 different kind of options then. So that's kind of the intuitive explanation behind the product rule. You don't kind of need to know the proof, but it's really helpful to kind of have a clear idea in your mind about why it works. And if kind of the explanation wasn't clear enough, I've also included a link in the description if you want to kind of check out a bit more onto a bit more of an intuitive explanation. But I'll move on to another question, and hopefully that will also make it clearer. So question 2. The full-time score of a football match is 2-5. Oh, I wrote football match, sorry. It's 2-5. How many different halftime scores could there have been? So say this is kind of Arsenal-Chelsea match. Arsenal obviously has scored 2. Chelsea scored 5. Better team, what can I say? So, at halftime, Arsenal could have, for example, let me switch to red for Arsenal, could have scored, for example, 0, probably likely, I'm just saying, 1 or 2. And then Chelsea over here could have scored at halftime, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And how do I know, for example, Arsenal has to score between 0 and 2, right? Well, we know it can't score more than 2 because if it scored more than 2, then its full-time score would be, more than 2. And then we know it has to kind of score more than 0, or at least, a minimum of 0, because you don't score negative goals in football. So that's how you kind of know these are the different kind of combinations. And now, if you apply to our systematic listing strategies, say Arsenal could have scored 0, that means Chelsea could have scored 0 as well, or 1, 0, 1, or 0, 2, or 0, 3, or 0, 4, or 0, 5. And kind of you can kind of write these out, and then so forth. And then same thing with 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 5. And then again for the higher tier kids, what you can do is actually apply this product rule here. So say for example, so every time, say Arsenal can score 0, right? But every time Arsenal scores 0, there's also 5 different combinations of what Chelsea could have scored. So, 0, 1, again, let's go back to this branches principle. So there's kind of these 5 different branches that come off. And then these branches come off, of these 5 branches come out for all 3 of these. So kind of, you get this again. It's going to get a bit cluttered if I do all of these. So since there's 5 different options that come from Arsenal scoring 0, 5 different options that come from Arsenal scoring 1, and 5 different options coming from Arsenal scoring 2, that's 5 plus 5 plus 5. Or 5 times 3, which is the product rule, and that's 15. So our answer to the question, let me go back to my trusty black pen, is 15. Because there's 3 options here, and there's 5 options here, and 3 times 5 is 15. Hopefully that made sense. But kind of what's important here is that you kind of practice a few of these questions, because sometimes these questions can be worded in a way to perhaps trip you up, or you're not too sure what to do. So it's really important you practice these, and then a lot of the time they're kind of real world scenarios, like football matches 2 and 5. And so if you kind of don't have any clue about how football works, maybe you don't know there's no such thing as negative goals or something. So it's important to kind of do a few of these to get a feel of the types of questions there are. But thanks very much for joining me this time around. See you guys in the next one.